Hi everyone, my name is Emily Terpak and I am a realtor in Philadelphia and the surrounding suburbs in Pennsylvania and South Jersey. In this video, I'm going to talk about parking in Philly. This is probably the number one concern that buyers have when they're coming from outside of the city to buy. But heck, even current residents moving within the city can feel panicked about parking. And that's because as Philly grows, parking can become more and more problematic for people. So I live in South Philly, and personally, I don't have an issue finding parking any time of the day or night, but I also live in a neighborhood with a copious amount of free street parking. So you're definitely going to want to keep watching to find out where that is. So I'm going to break down the parking in Philadelphia into three categories. First is what your options are for parking on the street for free, no matter what neighborhood you live in. The second is what neighborhoods tend to have just a lot of homes that come with deeded parking. So that would be your very own dedicated parking spot that comes with your house or condo. And the third is what growing neighborhood in South Philly, aka the one I live in, which has access to a ton of street parking. Now, unless you live in the absolute most center of Philadelphia, I'm talking about Market Street, Chestnut Street, Walnut Street, then you're likely going to have the ability to apply for a residential parking permit. A parking permit allows you to park on the street in your neighborhood for free. This means you're exempt from paying the parking meter or abiding by any time restrictions that you might see on the street parking signs. In Philly, parking signs will often look like this sign here. And when you're granted a parking permit, they will assign you a district number based on the neighborhood that you live in. In this case, this sign is showing district number 6. This means that anyone with a parking permit in District 6 can park here for free. And again, they can ignore the 2-hour time limit that was mentioned on the sign as well. And you can park overnight or for days in a row. And the parking districts are pretty big, so there will be plenty of blocks in your area that you can park on. It's also helpful to mention that parking permits are extremely inexpensive. So for your first car, it's $35 a year. And if you need a parking permit for a second car, it's $50 a year for that car. And it goes up incrementally from there, but overall, they're super reasonable. Now, if you want a house or condo that has its own parking, again, there are certain neighborhoods in Philadelphia that just simply have a good amount of those types of properties. The first neighborhood or area that comes to mind is Fishtown and Old Kensington. Now, new construction is super prevalent in both of these neighborhoods, and a lot of these new construction homes were built with garages like you see here, or if it's a larger development, sometimes the builders actually have built a parking area behind all of the houses, and each property is assigned a certain spot, like you see here. Another area that comes to mind is Fairmount. Now, there isn't as much new construction in this neighborhood, but for some reason, there are just a healthy amount of homes that come with parking in this neighborhood. Now, of course, they're going to be more expensive in this neighborhood, but they do exist. And finally, Roxborough and Manayunk have a lot of homes where parking is included. Some will be new construction homes like you'll see in Fishtown and Old Kensington, but there are plenty of older homes actually that also have deeded parking spots. It's also worth mentioning how much parking can add to the price of a home. Now, it will depend on what area of the city you're looking in. If you're considering Fishtown, for instance, a parking spot that's attached to your home is going to be anywhere between an extra $40,000 and $60,000 on the purchase price. That means if you were looking at two identical homes, one with parking and one without, the one with parking would be, again, about $40,000 to $60,000 more than the house without parking. And $60,000 will probably add about $300 a month to your mortgage payment if you want to think of it that way. $40,000 to $60,000 is also a wide range, but it depends on whether the house has a driveway versus a house that has its own secured and covered garage. That will cost more. But in another part of the city where street parking isn't super difficult to find, having a deeded parking spot might only add another $10,000 or $20,000 to your property value. Now let's talk about the neighborhood in South Philly that I live in that has an ample amount of street parking. Pennsport. So Pennsport extends from Front Street to 4th Street and from Washington Ave to Snyder Ave. What makes Pennsport super unique is that the 95 overpass runs along Front Street, and residents, or anyone really, has the ability to park underneath the overpass for free. So here's a photo I took under the overpass during the day and again at 7 p.m. at night. Pretty impressive with how many spots there are, right? So if you want to live in a neighborhood with easy parking, but you don't want to pay an extra $40,000 to $60,000, then look no further than Pennsport. Thanks for watching. Be sure to tap that like button and click here to subscribe. And for more videos, click here and here.